Okay, guys. Well, I'm done with the excavator. This is my Double E Hobbies Volvo 160 EC 160E, and this is a conversion from the Double E Hobbies electric excavator. Matter of fact, in that box is all the electronic components to that I took out. I don't want to get rid of those parts because there are some kind of cool parts, and I'm kind of a tinkerer, but there's some cool parts. Like here's a linear actuator. The receiver is perfectly fine. I might use that on another model. I said in one of my other videos, this gear motor is cool. Gear motors are, if you built anything in RC construction, gear motors are something that you have to use, and that one's pretty strong. So that's cool. Well, like I said, everything works on it. It looks good. It looks like it did when it came out of the factory. You know, I tried to put everything in a neat package. I did the hard lines to the front. I have installed the quick connect I was talking about in my last video from Wurbox. It came with this extra piece of metal here that actually looks like a bottle opener, but it was perfect because I can use it to make a grading bucket. Also have this cylinder shield here. Trying to think what else I did. Oh, well, let's start with the problems. The problems are always fun to talk about, but they're important to know about. The first thing was, you can see it in here, the tank. Now, I don't know what I was doing wrong with the tanks, but every tank that I built and used in this, it would turn the hydraulic fluid to foam. And I don't know why it was doing that, but it turned the hydraulic fluid to foam. And of course, that doesn't work when it's foamy. It would lock up the whole system and nothing would move. The other problem I had, I don't know if you can remember, but I'm using the Hobby Wing Quick Run 1060 brush speed controllers instead of the little Onyx speed controllers that I had to run all the electronic features like the tracks and the house, because they literally burnt up and caught on fire. I don't know what happened, and it just literally, I plugged the battery in and the magic smoke came out from this speed controller and that speed controller, and a second later the one that's under this piece here, it made the magic smoke and it died. The other thing was, and I think I said it in one of the other videos too, the pump that I had was an old pump. So I wasn't really too surprised when the pump failed on me and finally just died. What happened was, it basically self-destructed on the inside. The little tank was full of black dust. So I'm thinking that, I haven't taken it apart to look at it and see what's going on inside of it, but the old pump is gone. It doesn't work anymore. And I'm trying to find it so I can show you guys. I don't know where I put it. But anyway, so I got a new hydraulic pump for it. It's also a less lube pump. And the only reason why I went with the less lube pump again is because that's what I built the thing with. So I don't want to have to redesign the whole entire system to put a different pump. Now, there is a guy named Cleo that runs a company called Hydraulic Hobbies. He came to me the other day because I was talking about pumps to him, and he said that he has a small pump that he just started to sell. So I might go and check that out, and it's cheaper. The less lube pump was $130. His pump is only $85. But with shipping and all that. So usually when I buy something from him, I buy a few things from him so I can kind of eat the shipping a little bit and make it worth my while. It's kind of like when I buy stuff from Magom HRC. I tend to buy a few things. That way, the shipping wouldn't be so bad, because it's automatically $12. It's automatically $12 no matter what you buy from Mega on HRC. So that's with that. So let me show you that it works. So the first thing, got all the lights to work, because the last time I think I only had some of the lights working. So I have all the lights. I have the two factory lights to work again, which I actually had to replace the LEDs. Word of advice, if you're ever going to do this conversion, if you want to run the lights, make sure that you put a resistor on the lights, or you have a receiver control switch that can only run 4 volts, because I burnt out the factory LEDs because the voltage was too high. I added this LED here because there's like a little screen that is molded into the body, and just wanted to utilize it, make it work. There's also one here, but behind it there's a screw, so you can't really put anything there. There's the actual little mount for the screw, so it doesn't work. And of course, I got the ones for the boom, so it aims down to the bucket. And again, the house works. I actually turned that without it hitting anything, and it'll do a complete 360. You move the stick. The stick is happy, moves nice and free. And then, of course, the bucket. And the bucket actually has more throw than it did from the factory. A lot more throw than it did from the factory. So that's really good. And again, and then finally the boom. And see if I can do this. You got the left track, the right track. So it all works. Let me see. Let's see if I can spin it around here. The other problem that I had in the conversion was the speed controller that ran the pump. The pump it lives back in here. You might be able to get a light in there to see it. But the pump is right back in there, and the speed controller that runs the pump is right here. Now, I was using a little airplane speed controller, which was fine as long as I ran the pump continuously. Well, I really don't like to do that. I don't know what it is, but I don't like to run my pumps continuously. I like to have them mixed. So when it was doing that, it would overheat. So I changed the pump, and actually not the pump. I'm sorry, guys. I changed the ESC and the pump. The ESC that came with this pump seems to be working really good. It's the one that Leslie supplies with their pump. Also, again, I got my accessories line. The last thing that I want to do, but right now I'm kind of tired of working on it, and really I don't feel really good today, guys. So kind of excuse the way that I sound and everything. I think I might have honestly come down with the Omicron, because I've been feeling like crap the whole for the last couple of days, and tomorrow morning I'm going to go get it tested. And actually, I'll let you guys know if that's the case in my last video, in the last video for this. But anyway, yeah, it's done. Tell me what you guys like about it, and I want to say before I close, I know a couple of people were asking questions about they would email me and ask me questions like, well, how hard was it to convert? And it really, again, I said this before in one of my other videos, it's not a hard thing to do. It's just that you got to be patient, and you got to sit down and be prepared to deal with problems. Like, one of the things that is a bane in my existence with any of my hydraulic RC models is that me and hydraulic fluid don't get along. So there was hydraulic fluid everywhere. Matter of fact, this stain right here on the table was from hydraulic spill. So if you don't mind getting dirty, that's fine. And again, I don't know what it is about hydraulic fluid, but hydraulic fluid seems like it's almost impossible to get up. So if I take the cab off, I've wiped this thing down, I've done everything, but a couple of days after I use it, I still find hydraulic fluid in spots, and I'm like, what's going on? Nothing's leaking. But that's the first thing. The other thing is too, I don't really know if it's worth it. It's not as strong, and I'm not gonna candy coat it and say, oh yeah, it's stronger than it was with the hydraulics. It's actually not even close to being as strong as it was with the electronic stuff in it. Where the difference is that I have way more control with the hydraulics than I did with the electronic stuff. The tracks, I have infinite more control over it. The turntable on the house, I can just barely crawl, or I can go full speed. That was something that I couldn't do with the regular electronics. It was proportional, but it wasn't that fine of a movement. I mean, this is very fine. The other thing was just the movements of the components, like this. I'm moving the I don't know if you can see how slow the bucket is moving. I couldn't do that. With the electronic stuff. So that was another thing. And granted, it's still very strong. I mean, it still will drag itself around. So it's not a bad thing. But where the electronic rams were literally ripping roots out of the ground, this one gets hung up on the roots. But again, it's still strong enough to go out in the front yard and just start digging a hole over there by that pot right there. So it's not a bad thing, So, and the other thing is too, it's more realistic. And again, I said in one of my other videos, there's just more options with the hydraulics. I can do a lot more with the hydraulics than I can with the electronic stuff. People make stuff for the hydraulics. They don't really make stuff for the electronic. But that being said, I do, and I may buy another one around tax time when I have a little bit extra money running around. But my little Nissan right there needs some TLC, so that's going to be before all my hobby stuff. But I may get another one and just leave it electronic. Just have one that's more just industrial and does all the heavy lifting, and have one that's just for for doing all the other stuff. And also when it's sometimes better just to be able to charge a battery and just go out and play. You don't have to worry about leaks. You don't have to worry about spills. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It just works. So that being said, it's a fun project. And if you have one of these that doesn't work right, or if you got the extra time and money and you just want a neat little project, do it. It's not hard to do. It's this. I think the hardest part that I got was measuring the hydraulic cylinders. Like, these are a little bit too tall for the boom, but it also, even though they're a little bit too tall, it still digs as deep as it was when it came from the factory. So that's a problem, but it's not a huge problem, so I'm not worried about it. And I think the only other problem that I had was using cheap speed controllers for the for all the components, all the other stuff like the turntable and all that. So yeah, I mean, but other than that, it was an easy, neat project. So hope you guys liked it. My next video, I'll show it digging, and I think in the next video, and which is going to be the final video for this this vehicle, is that I think I'm going to replace this and actually aim these up this way so it doesn't get in the dirt when I'm digging. I also want to make a tilt bucket and utilize this piece here. So that might be on the next video too. So we don't know yet. So hope you guys like the video. Oh, one more thing. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this excavator is not very old. But the paint is starting to rub off. I mean, I could touch it up with some gray model paint, but that's something to look out for if you guys get one of these, that the gray paint is not on here very good. And, you know, but that, again, that's not a big thing. I can just mask that off and fix that with some model paint. So I'm not worried about it. But that's just something I noticed. And the other thing I noticed too, just before I go, is that the house, this is getting a little bit worse. It's not really hindering anything, but it's getting a little looser. When I first got it, it always been loose, but it's getting a little more and more loose. And also, one of the things that if you're changing this, and you got to be very careful of, take the track frames apart and look at the wiring, because the way that they have it wired, I don't know how they got it to even work that way, but they had one of the positive wires coming from this track to the left speed controller, and the negative wire from this from the positive wire from this track going to the left speed controller, and the negative wire from this track going going to the left speed controller, and the negative wire from this track going to the right speed controller. So it's crazy. It worked with their system. So I don't know what kind of black magic they got going on in that little system, but it worked with that. But when I went to actually hook it up to the speed controllers, it didn't work. And I'm thinking also that's what probably helped contribute to burn out the speed controllers. That was wacky. But again, you know, so I encourage that you actually take this thing apart. Even if you got an electric one, just take it apart. Check out how everything's put together, because it's really not that complicated of a machine. You know, excavators really are not that complicated when you actually sit down, take all the electronics off, take all the hydraulics off. The principle behind it is not very hard. You know, so that's something that I encourage. And also, the other thing that I found, check the screws. Well, these are my screws, but check the screws, because I've lost a couple of screws, and I found a couple of screws that I have no clue where they came from, because everything's got a screw in it. So I don't know where those screws came from. Everything is tightened and it's on there and nothing's falling off, but you know, but oh well, whatever. That's my part 4 to this video. Hope you guys like it. Talk to you later.